All right, let's go and get started. First off, thanks everybody for joining today's webinar, which is 2026 B2B marketing hot takes. We marketed this as the 4 trends that will shape the year. We're actually going to cover 5, so we get a bonus hot take here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tyler Elliston. I'm the founder and CEO of Right Side Up. My background is in performance marketing and analytics, worked at a lot of in-house companies and hired a number of agencies. With sort of mixed experience, which led me to start Right Side Up. If you're not familiar with Right Side Up, message me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you and just tell you more and not take up too much time here. The very short version is that, our specialty is really deploying A+ marketers across marketing functions and the e-com functions. We do that in 3 ways: through deploying consultants. We also have agency-like teams, and then we also help with full-time recruiting. And really the scope again is anything that lives in a growth marketing or e-com org across performance marketing, lifecycle, SEO, content, etc. So enough about Right Side Up. A couple housekeeping items for this webinar. Everybody is muted except for the panelists. We will be providing a recording that will be sent out tomorrow. And then please provide questions in the Q&A box. We really want this to be an interactive session. So, we've got some prepared comments from each of the speakers for each hot take, but we really want your engagement via that Q&A. The agenda is really simple. We're going to cover 5 hot takes. So these are the 5. So gated content isn't dead. Measure influence, not just clicks. There's a new publisher type on the rise, custom GPTs. AI can't scale authenticity, and leading the machines, how content teams win with AI. We'll have each speaker introduce themselves as they get into their topic. I would also say that in addition to the Q&A about these hot takes, we would love to hear your hot takes. Please also provide those in the Q&A throughout this session. Tomorrow, when we send a follow-up email, we'll do a vote on everybody's hot takes that were submitted, and we'll give somebody a prize. Whoever has a hot take that gets voted most interesting. We'll also do a live vote at the end of this webinar on the hot takes that are presented. So we'll do those separately, one live here, and then excuse me, I lost my voice. And then tomorrow over email for the audience submitted hot takes. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in and talk about gated content isn't dead. Kevin.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you here in this lovely new year. And yeah, my presentation is going to be gated content isn't dead. Um, but it's still a strong revenue driver. Now, a little bit about me. I've run Right Side Up's B2B practice, B2B advertising practice for about 6 years now. It's called Right%. So I've managed, and the team has managed hundreds of millions of dollars in ad spend. And this includes a lot of gated content, non-gated content, demos, et cetera, et cetera. So all of the learnings from this hot take today come from that experience of, 6 years running Right%, 12 years running B2B advertising of, where does gated content fit in? So, a lot of people, I say this is a hot take that gated content isn't dead because I see a lot of people say it online that gated content is dead. I have seen very, very popular LinkedIn influencers say it. There's some agencies that have their whole like modus operandi around that. And the argument is simple, right? People hate lead gen forms. They don't want to be called. Lead gen's outdated. It's the way of the past. And all modern companies, do something called demand gen, which is the future. And there's a lot of persuasive parts to that, right? Like no one likes filling out a form and just getting spam and so on. But in reality, it's the wrong debate to say, should we just use gated or ungated? They both have a really important place. So ungated content builds awareness and trust. It's really, really important in ABM strategies, very specific list strategies. Gated content, however, captures intent and creates action in a way that basically nothing else can do. Gated content has an important part of the funnel that I do not see being replaceable, and therefore, it's very silly to call gated content dead, very shooting yourself in the foot. And I'll get into the data in a little bit. So what we find is that, if you look at all the different types of advertising, right? There's get a demo ads, which is basically just saying, hey, try our product. There's content ads, so gated content, hey, download this ebook, or ungated, hey, check out this article about us. There's also things like incentive ads, which is, offer someone a $100 gift card if they talk to your sales team. What we find is that across paid social for B2B ads, that gated content is one of the biggest revenue drivers. And the reasons for that are one, higher intent signals, two, clear sales handoff, and three, stronger monetization. And I'll get into more detail on what this means in the next slide. But basically, of all the revenue right percent clients are generating, probably like 40% of it right now is through gated content. So why does gated content actually work? What does it do that your other channels don't do for you? So one is if someone downloads a gated content piece, right? Like our checklist to being a successful HR company or whatever. You collect lead data at that moment. Name, first name, email, company, and also whatever qualifying questions you have. How many years of business do you have? How many employees do you have, et cetera. And that data is really, really clean. So, if you rate the cleanliness of all your attribution, someone filling out a form in real time and giving self-filled information about themselves is one of the higher quality um, sources of lead level data you can get. The attribution is really clean. So if you have, hundreds of ebook downloads, right? Even if your attribution's a mess, if Salesforce is a mess, HubSpot's a mess, you don't have those things connected, you can take, in Excel, a VLOOKUP of all of these names of all these leads that came in, do a VLOOKUP against the opportunities your sales team is talking to, and look for, which leads touched gated content, what did they touch, when did they touch it. You can do this even without a very sophisticated program. Um, at Right Percent, we say that, leading indicators of future earnings or life is one of the most important things for you to get. And gated content lets you get this immediately. Someone says they have 100 million in revenue. That gives you a very, very good idea that they're going to be a good customer for you down the line. And finally, like the math works out. So yes, gated content leads convert worse, right? On average, we see gated content leads convert, about 50% worse than a normal lead, but that's actually kind of amazing. It's not 90% worse. And the cost per lead is 75% less. So the math almost always works. Last slide here, or close to the last, is there's almost no choice but to get into gated content because get a demo doesn't scale. Audience fatigue, right? Every ad account has audience fatigue. The longer you run an ad account, the worse it does over time. We have seen data that if you have gated content or ungated content, really any kind of content like regularly that you're changing, it greatly, greatly helps with audience fatigue. And lastly, what's important to make gated content that works? Target the real decision maker, really the person who buys your product, not just anybody at the company. Tie content directly to your product's value. It's impossible to make gated content work if you're like, oh, we make HR tech software, but the guide is how to work from home during COVID. Like it's useless. You can't sell from it. And lastly, make easy to imagine content like templates and checklists. Like this stuff works really well. It's actionable. People can imagine using it. So that's really it. In conclusion, gated content isn't dead. Bad gated content strategies have never worked, but you're absolutely shooting yourself in the foot if you refuse to try gated content as a strategy because of reputation.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Would love questions or challenges if people disagree. Let me start with one question. You gave a couple of tips for effective gated content. I'm curious if you have any examples handy or any additional tips that
Yeah.
are kind of actionable coming out of this.
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned how checklists and handbooks are really good, and I'll give you the example of what taught me that. So one of my first clients at Right Percent was Zenefits, and they're an HR tech company at Right Side Up, and they have been acquired by TriNet. So we can share what worked now. Kind of this was years ago, but they had a piece of content called the Employee Handbook Template. And we promoted it with all sorts of ads. Get a template for your business, free template, etc. And it was like a 20-page Google slide deck of what a small business would need to make a handbook to sign up with. And the sales team like got their pitch dialed down on this. Like, hey, that checkbook, Zenefits, the software, can automate half the things here. It can automate slides 2, 6, and 7, like etc. And it became a really, really virtuous cycle where tens of thousands of people downloaded the book, and the sales team got really used to selling off of it. That's like the dream that you're looking for is that, alignment of what the customer wants and what you have in the sales conversation.
Awesome. We've got two questions from the audience. Why don't we answer these and then we'll move on to the next hot take. So first question, what kind of nurture flows do you recommend for after someone downloads gated content?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a struggle to actually convert them, once they've downloaded content.
Yeah, that's a great question, Anonymous. Gated content needs a sales team to close. It's almost impossible to close gated content with chest nurture emails or something like that. I have seen people chase that dream of building like the perfect newsletter from content, and it never works out. Think of it as another way to like get that person to realize your company knows what it's talking about, that the salespeople have experience, with their difficulties. Rather than thinking of it as something that can exist standalone outside of the sales team.
So more applicable in a sales-led go-to-market motion than a self-serve. And then
Correct.
and then really that's the best nurturing you're saying is really via sales.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Not to suggest that's the only way, but most effective
Yeah.
for
Generally, gated content is part of a sales-led growth strategy. In PLG, it has a much more niche impact.
got it. Okay, another question. What categories will continue to pay dividends in 2026?
So lots of categories, but like I mentioned, actionable stuff. The more actionable, the better. Checklists, guides. I also suspect there's going to be lots of cool tools people make with AI. Like you can offer anything. It doesn't have to be written content. That just happens to be the easiest. But if you can come up with cool offers related to AI, audits, information agents, whatever, like any kind of offer that gives value and shows your company knows what they're doing in the industry, all of that is excellent for 2026.
Awesome. We do have one more question. Let's take it offline. So I would say for everybody, like Kevin is a very willing thought partner, to brainstorm things. So connect with him on LinkedIn and he can talk through any questions you have, including this one that's mentioned that we need to move on from. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So Sterling Beck is going to talk about measuring influence, not just clicks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sterling Beck. I lead demand generation at Customer IO. We are a email marketing company. And over the last 2 years, we've more than 4x'd our revenue to over 100 million, which has been a bit of a rocket ship and has been in many ways a story of great growth. But I want to share with you all today a story that wasn't as fun. Last year, we found that all of the SEO metrics that we'd been measuring for almost a decade started to plummet. Or put another way, the traffic that we got from all of our SEO efforts started to plummet, while all of our SEO metrics told an opposite story, that we were still ranking well for the keywords that we cared about, but that we weren't actually getting as much traffic for the keywords that we had traditionally relied on to drive a lot of growth for our business. And so that led to a few different shifts internally. One, we moved our content team into the demand generation team. Two, we stopped looking at all of our old SEO metrics. We stopped caring about how we ranked for certain keywords and realizing that I believe the metric today is roughly 70% of buyers are doing their research before they ever talk to a salesperson. Recognizing that a lot of that research was probably taking place with LLMs such as ChatGPT, um, Perplexity, Gemini, we started to focus much more on how do we make sure that we're increasing the visibility that's taking place within those. When we started this effort back in, I want to say July, our visibility score was not very good. We started to invest in it, and slowly but surely, we managed to get up to around 7.3% in October. That merely means that of the kinds of queries or the questions that people were asking LLMs, we were showing up less than 1 out of 10 times. That wasn't ideal. And so we invested heavily in trying to get that score up. And by starting to measure those metrics, we were able to get it up over 25% in November, which has had a pretty sharp impact on our funnel. Next slide. First off, it helped us to, just by measuring where we were ranked, we were able to start to see how we lined up against some of our competitors. One of the things that we quickly realized is we weren't the only ones that were also going after these audiences and trying to put out good content that would help us to rank well in visibility. Like I said, back in July, we were showing up 17th out of the competitors that we cared about. And by starting to focus on that, we were able to slowly climb up to today. We're just over fifth in AI visibility on the tools that we care about. Next slide. And this has had a pretty direct impact on our funnel. First off, as I mentioned before, we were seeing that a lot of our organic and direct traffic was actually going down, even though we were ranking well on our SEO metrics. We have since inverted that. Our daily users has more than doubled, and we now see almost, I want to say, over 10% now. So I think this slide says 8.9%, but we just wrapped up our quarterly metrics, and for this last quarter, more than 10% of our traffic came from AI-assisted search. That's had a pretty massive impact on the demos that we're seeing, on the trials that we're seeing, on the people that are engaging with our content. And ultimately, it's required us to think about different metrics that we had historically cared about. Nobody had Perplexity or ChatGPT or Claude on their radar when they were designing their SEO strategies, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. And it's time to update that if you want to be able to remain competitive and relevant in this market. Cool. I think
Awesome.
that wraps it for my slides. Tyler, if you have any
Thank
questions.
you. Yeah, I'll prompt the crowd. Please put any questions you all have. I'll start with one. Um, how do you think brands should balance traditional SEO with optimizing for LLMs? Obviously, there is still traditional search, and I mean, it sounds like you all made a pretty significant pivot, but can you talk about the balance between those two?
Yes, thank you. The good the good answer here is you don't necessarily have to change a lot of the same things that you were, or a lot of the things that you've been doing in order to optimize for search engines. LLMs tend to care about a lot of those same things, such as quality content, having authoritative impact on your peers. That is to say, if you can find opportunities to go on webinars such as this one, if you can find opportunities to get your content cross-promoted with partners, that is certainly a good investment to be making as you're thinking about what LLMs are ranking. But a lot of the things we were doing already for SEO translate well into optimizing for LLMs. It's just you might find that you shift some of the audiences you're going after. That is to say, you're now optimizing less for the human and more for the machine, and you're trying to think through what what does the machine view as authoritative, or how is it coming up with the suggestions and recommendations it's making? And if you can reverse engineer that, you can start to take the content you were already creating for SEO and use it in places where it's going to have much more impact.
Awesome, thank you. We have a question from the audience. Are there any specific tools you use to begin to rank higher in AI search engines? I think I mentioned Profound. I think I saw Profound as a source earlier. And can you talk about that or
Yeah,
other
yeah,
sources?
certainly. I like Profound a lot. I don't work for them. We have no relationship with them, but they're just one of those tools that gives you exactly kind of the dashboard that you would hope for in terms of being able to see how you're ranking day to day for queries that you care about. They also do a very good job, I think, of being able to give you some information that you might not otherwise have, specifically around citations. Citations matter a lot for LLMs. And so if you think about when an LLM is making a recommendation for a certain tool, if you're trying to sell software, if you're trying to rank well for a certain thing, um, typically the LLMs are looking at websites such as Reddit to try to glean what are common recommendations, or what are recommendations that matter. And Profound actually lays out in just a nice, neat, orderly list, hey, here are the websites that are having the most influence on how these responses are being composed. And what that means for those that might be in demand gen or marketing roles, you can take that list, and maybe you can't buy your way to the top on some of those, but a lot of the websites that it'll mention as citation heavy are probably websites that you can sponsor or that you can find opportunities to work with. And so I'd recommend, I think Profound has a trial. Try it out. Take a list of the citations and then see if you can't retool your SEO strategy to at least incorporate increasing your visibility on some of those websites that matter.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's one of the things that we've seen at Right Side Up is compared to SEO, AEO, GEO is much more, there's a lot more need for getting content onto third-party sites, which is, I think, what you're referencing. And certainly our affiliate team is doing a lot of that work. I'm curious if you have any tips for identifying the strong refers outside of just like looking in Profound. I mean, maybe that is just the answer, like using a tool like Profound to find, find those sources. Any other tips for identifying strong refers?
Um, kind of. I would I right now it's still a bit of the Wild West in terms of which tool is going to come out on top. And so you'll have I've seen people get into trouble where they will look at LLMs and go, well, ChatGPT incorporates Reddit really heavily, so let's go all in on a Reddit strategy, only to have
Hmm.
ChatGPT then, dial down maybe some of the Reddit citations that they're doing. I would recommend as much as possible be pretty broad. Think about a Claude strategy, think about a Perplexity strategy. Think about how are you going to rank on Gemini? Because we don't know today if ChatGPT will remain the dominant player. It's certainly helpful to rank for that, but you might find that there is a lot of territory that you can claim where your competitors maybe are not going after Gemini or are not going after some of these other tools that are still fairly decisive in terms of the amount of traffic they can send your way. And yeah, that would be my flag is play with those tools. See what recommendations they're making and how they differentiate.
Awesome. We need to move on to our next hot take. I do see, Heather, your question. We will address that either at the end if we have time, or over email, or connecting with Sterling. But for now, let's move on to our third hot take, which is with Amy Scanlon. There's a new publisher type on the rise, custom GPTs.
Thanks, Tyler. So excited that everyone's joining. Gosh, there's some amazing hot takes. I've been known to be a bit of a tube light, and so my hot take might not be so hot. So I'm excited to see if you all know this. I'm Amy. I started and managed the affiliate practice and here at Right Side Up, and I want to talk about custom GPTs. So with the algorithm, the AI algorithm changes, the playbook for affiliate has changed a bit. So the digital media publications, the content creators, and the review sites, they've lost their algorithm rank and the ability to monetize free traffic. So while they're working on their traffic acquisition, I have found that there is a new publisher on the rise, and those are the custom GPTs. And I say this affectionately, but the affiliates are the scavengers of the internet. They will find the nooks and crannies. Uh, they often are the first growth marketers to exploit something, and then it becomes the norm. And custom GPTs are the publishers that really grok out on going deep in a SaaS solution or doing battle cards. And what they're doing is they're creating custom GPTs and they are sharing through Reddit and through LinkedIn and earning an affiliate commission, which is lovely for them. It's fantastic for the end user because it saves you time in creating that prompt, which can often be complicated and includes refinement. So it's kind of the cliff notes of prompts for what you're looking for. And the brands love it as well because they can seed the custom GPT publisher with the content and the data so that they show up exactly how they want to show up. If, for example, if it's a battle card, they can highlight their differentiators and value propositions, and they can influence where they show up in a list if the custom GPT is evaluating and reviewing various SaaS companies. So that's my hot take. Tyler, I'd love to hear what you have to ask me on custom GPTs and for the audience too.
Yeah. So folks in the audience, please jump in with questions. I'll start by asking just how do you source custom GPTs?
Yeah, that is a phenomenal question, and it's really hard. There are AI directories and where you can come and find custom GPTs to save you time, and then you can start to source them as publishers to work with you as a brand. They often don't have their contact information, so that makes it extra hard. Where we have seen the most success is utilizing your brand ambassadors that are talking about your solution and incentivizing them with an affiliate commission to create a custom GPT and to share that through their monetization platforms. Again, their social, right now it tends to be LinkedIn and Reddit.
Awesome. It's okay if not, but are there any examples of custom GPTs that you've seen that maybe like that helped catalyze for you? Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to be a thing.
There are, and I'm hesitant to share them because they
Okay.
are a little bit of a nugget for some of our B2 SMB and prosumer affiliate programs. They're doing really well. I will tell you, when I say the scavengers of the internet, the custom GPTs or perhaps might be a point in time as the LLMs get better and better and naturally start to do this themselves. But I would encourage you to reach out to your brand ambassadors to see if anybody is willing and able to create a custom GPT and spread those news for you.
Well, and I think that would lead to my next question. And if any audience questions come in, please, if anyone has questions, please add them. Otherwise, we'll end with this one. Who is typically on the other side of these? I mean, you're suggesting brand ambassadors can be, but like, for those examples that we won't talk about, like, who's behind them and how did they say, oh, I know, I'm going to create a custom GPT and be a publisher through an affiliate
Yeah.
model?
Yeah, really brand ambassadors, heavy users of the product, and they naturally get rewarded by sharing their knowledge. And so monetization has been an afterthought for them. And so the brands often ask if they want to be included in the affiliate program to earn a commission, but that is not how it started. But it enabled the brokering of a partnership and the influence of the brand on what the custom GPT was going to be about and what data they would pull from and what content they would be pulled from.
Awesome. Thank you. If anyone has additional questions, feel free to add them. And again, we can connect you with Amy or answer them as a follow-up. Let's move on to our next hot take, which is AI can't scale authenticity. Vinny?
That's perfect. Thanks, Tyler. And thank you, Red Side Up, for asking me to speak. Today, I'm going to speak about AI and authenticity, which is a word that I think we will hear more and more in the coming year. And I love the intros that everyone has given. And if we can click, I thought what better way to illustrate authenticity than to just let ChatGPT write my introduction for me. So I'm a professional marketer. I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I combine strategic thinking with practical people-first approach to my work, which is great. I have a strong focus for problem solving and continuous improvement, and I bring clarity and momentum to complex initiatives, helping teams turn ideas into measurable results, which is all lovely. I think all those things are true. But if we can click, I'm going to read a second introduction that I wrote for myself. So I'm Vinny Balistreri. I have 15 years of experience working in B2B enterprise tech, background in scaling startups. I've been the lone marketer for a company running a $1.5 million monthly budget, and I've run campaigns to the largest broadcast companies in the world, marketing the solution that is ultimately responsible for streaming the Super Bowl all across the globe. I have 3 dogs. I love my bike. I cried at the end of Stranger Things. All of this is on my socials. All of this was capable to be found. But I think that second introduction really illustrates that a more rich view into who I am, what I care about, and my capabilities as an individual, and what distinguishes me. So if we can click. Okay, so the problem of scale. I think like right now, unavoidably as marketers, like we have to deal with AI tools, right? Everyone, it's just like the way forward. Oh, we can click one back before we spoil my slide. Yeah, that's okay. So I think we have to deal with AI solutions as marketers more and more. I think in terms of scale, like we've never had access to a tool that allows us to scale content in every form, whether that's text, audio, video, in the way that AI does, which is great. It also means that we're casting a very wide net and spreading a very broad message, which creates a gap. So if we click now to this great GIF that I threw in here, and that gap comes in the branding and positioning of who your company and your product ultimately is. And I think that lots of AI solutions are already recognizing this. There are ways to upload brand guidelines, positioning, docs. You can build that custom GPT that like it pulls from all of your own content. But I think the person behind the product will matter more in this coming year than it maybe ever has in the past. And we can click. So this is the official hot take. It's that as marketers, a growth strategy that companies will begin building in 2026, what we're going to be asked to do is to create internal influencer marketing teams and turn non-marketing employees into content engines for our products to communicate the value and build community around whatever the company or client is. And I think that this is not something that's like necessarily new. I think that developer companies do this really well, and they have specific roles for this, like a developer advocate team or a developer relations team. And I think non-developer companies are going to start seeing the value in that. And as marketers, we're going to be asked how to do that. If we can click, I think I have the next slide. Okay, I have a fun little story to end on here. An example of this in the real world. This is a company I love, Particle IoT. I worked for them for a couple of years. They're a connected device company. Think about like anything that's connected to the internet. They're an IoT company. Lime scooters, air monitoring software, stuff like that. Every year, Particle hosts this fantastic conference. It's called Spectra. At the time of this story, it was in person. Now it's all virtual. But this conference was like a huge deal. Like everyone who was in IoT would show up at this conference. They would preview all their new products. They would talk about developments in IoT as an industry. And I was there at the event, sitting in the audience, waiting for the opening remarks to start. And I was chatting with the gentleman next to me, and I have a staff badge on, so he knows who I am. And the CEO of Particle gets up to take the stage and give his welcome remark. And the person next to me leans over and says, do you know if Mohit will be speaking in the opening remarks? And if we can click, this is Mohit. And there's like a pretty stark difference in these two Instagram profiles. And I'll I'll let the number nerds take a look and figure it out. I think it's pretty obvious. But Mohit worked at Particle. Mohit genuinely loved connected devices. He loved building connected devices. He also has like a fantastic knack for photography with a soft background. So his Instagram looks very clean, very well put together. And I explained that Mohit wasn't speaking until later in the afternoon. The gentleman I was talking with literally at that moment said, thank you, got up and left the event hall because the only thing this person cared about was Mohit. Like that is all they wanted to hear talk. They didn't care that the CEO of the company that the technology that they were using was literally on stage about to tell him about like the next new thing. He only wanted to hear from this person. And Mohit will not be replaced by AI. There's no way to replace that kind of draw and that kind of affiliation to that person. His pull into the community, into the industry, it was absolutely magnetic. So we want to build that kind of magnetism in the internal influencers that we create inside of the companies we work with. Yeah, I think that'll be more and more of a priority in 2026. That's the take.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Folks in the audience, excuse me, please add questions as you have them. One question I have is like, who do you look for inside the company? And also like what kinds of companies, if we're moving from current where this is not prevalent to a future where this is very prevalent, any guidance on the types of companies or situations where you feel like early adoption particularly makes sense or is feasible?
Yeah, I honestly think that like this play can be run in any industry, whether it's B2B, B2C, consumer product. Like I think it can happen anywhere. I think the person inside of the company, I've never worked at a company or worked with a client who this person didn't exist. And I think they typically sit with product. They can often sit with like the customer team, customer success team. And there's someone who just like really genuinely believes in the value of what is being provided and like is wholeheartedly invested in like making it as good as possible. And they're usually someone who is also pretty, I'll use the word extrovert, but like they're pretty loud, right? Like they're either like consistently posting on LinkedIn. Maybe they are constantly in attendance at conferences. Like there's someone who is like out in the industry and like trying to make those connections. And I think those types of people welcome the support of a marketing team who's saying, let me do more for you to like help you spread this thing that you already believe in.
Awesome. A question came in before you answered that saying, are there any job titles that you see as being relevant to building internal employee influencers? It sounds like often product, maybe customer success. Any other answers on that?
I think those are the two main ones. I do think that there is one pitfall to maybe look out for, which is like, I think salespeople inherently have to do this in their role. And this isn't someone who's going out to make a sales pitch. This is someone who like genuinely wants to talk about whatever product you have, whatever you're offering, whatever value you bring. And it's not someone who just can pitch really well, which sometimes I think salespeople are always looking to elevate their own platform and like expand their network. So like it's just a little different than sales. So I think you have to be careful there.
Yeah. Maybe one last question. Actually, I have two more questions. One is,
Sure.
I mean, I'm curious if people who are internal influencers that have their own brand, have a big following, any hesitance to attach themselves really strongly, even to a company that they feel really good about right now, and also are there any implications for compensation if they're driving significant sort of awareness or positive brand impact?
Yeah, I think that so for first question, um, you can't put too many guardrails on it, right? We can't say, oh, your own like the job of the marketer is not to say this is the only thing that you can talk about and like here's your talk track, go put yourself in front of a camera and record this, which is like, I don't know, sometimes what video content turns out to be. It's more about like, here's information that we can give you, here's how we can help you craft a story, and like maybe here's how we can help you execute in whatever form of content that you're trying to produce. In terms of compensation, I think that like if they're already employed by the company, like they are already being compensated. But I don't think that like it's not like a commission based role or anything like that. And I think it is like there is a huge payoff for that person when they become when their platform becomes elevated, right? Like I'm sure that like Mohit here like could go to any other connected device company and be like, hey, look at all this work I've done and I'm known in the industry and like whatever it is. And like I think even you're paying them to elevate their own personal brand for your benefit, I guess, is what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
Well, and so we got a question that it kind of doubles down on the question of incentives or earnings. And I think the response that I'm hearing is, well, one, it's a custom situation, and obviously
Mhm.
anything is possible, but it is intended to be mutually beneficial, right? So they're
Yes.
promoting the company, but the company is also promoting them in a way that's mutually beneficial. Um, I think we've covered that. The anonymous attendee that added this question, if you have additional follow-ups, please resubmit the question and we can do a follow-up. Last question for you. No pressure. Do you happen to recall the episode name of the last Stranger Things episode? No pressure if not, but
Oh, it's not One Last Adventure because that was like the pitch for the whole season.
no,
No, it's the right side up. It's the right side up,
it is the right side
which
up.
is who we're here with. Yes, that's perfect. That wasn't even
Yeah.
intentional. That's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Well, let's move on to the next hot take. Thank you so much, Vinny. Our last hot take is with Brooke, leading the machines, how content teams win with AI.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. And Vinny's topic is a really great transition into what we're going to talk about today. My name is Brooke Gocklin, and I'm the founder of BSG Consulting. I have about 15 years of experience in serving B2B tech companies on branding and content strategy, and I've been working with the Right Side Up team as a freelancer for the past 2 years. So let's go ahead and get into it. A lot of the conversation around AI and content marketing in particular has been framed with fear. So it's fear that AI is replacing writers, that everything will become generic, that content teams are becoming obsolete, right? But here's my hot take. AI is not replacing content marketers, it's exposing the difference between people who think and people who type. Now, the best teams I work with aren't leveraging AI to just write faster. They're using it to think more clearly, pressure test their ideas, and scale their own judgments. AI honestly works best when you treat it like a smart junior hire. It has infinite stamina, it can see patterns at scale, but it honestly has zero context unless you give it some. So think of somebody who needs a lot of direction, a lot of feedback, and most importantly, boundaries. This is just like a real junior teammate that you have to train to get up to speed. So, what hasn't changed is your job as a marketer, right? You're still responsible for the point of view, you're still responsible for the strategy, and you're still responsible for the tone of voice. ultimately, you are accountable for what kind of work that you put out, what kind of quality is in it as well. AI's job is honestly different. It's great at speed, it's great at pattern recognition, it's great at iterating on ideas. So, this isn't a solo sport, it's a team sport. And when humans and AI work together, everything works a little bit better. So, everything I'm going to talk about today builds on this operating model because once you get this right, AI stops feeling threatening and starts feeling a lot more like leverage. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see teams make with AI happens right at the beginning of the content process. They're opening a tool, they're thinking, okay, I need to like generate some new ideas. So give me some blog topics for X company, right? And while sometimes what they get back isn't necessarily wrong, it's just forgettable. It's not really unique. There's no point of view that's differentiated. It's generic, it's safe. And if you've given it SEO keywords, sometimes it's SEO flavored oatmeal. So, to be honest, it's not a problem that AI has for ideation. We're just giving it the wrong job and the wrong context. So, high performing teams don't just use AI to generate topics, they use it to interrogate their way of thinking. So let's think about this. If we're using ChatGPT or Claude, we want to go in with some context. Think of it as like providing it with a comprehensive brief, and what you really want from it, right? And then, when you are using these tools, ask things like, all right, well, I've given you this brief. What's the contrarian take here? What would make a buyer skeptical? And what am I missing about this topic that, maybe isn't usually discussed in the marketplace? Another way to do this is leveraging perplexity. I know Sterling mentioned this earlier in the call. Perplexity is a really great tool for a sanity check, especially when it comes to thought leadership. So, the tools that synthesize how a topic is being framed across the marketplace can quickly tell you if you're about to repeat what everybody else is already saying. Obviously, we don't want to do that, right? We want to have our unique point of view. We want our company to stand out. So, this is a great way for identifying content gaps and developing your own perspective. And here's the important part, right? AI can't really choose the angle for you. It can present the data, it can showcase like what some of these gaps are, but it is your responsibility as the human to decide. Okay, how does this align with my business reality? How does it align with the customer pain points? And how is it going to be presented in my brand's point of view so that it's a unique take on what's happening in the market? So, if your idea doesn't feel a little bit uncomfortable or at least interesting, it's probably not strong enough. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So SEO is where a lot of teams start to get nervous about AI. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. So tools like ChatGPT, generative AI tools, even Claude, they're not really great at doing SEO research. I feel like that's still a human-led task that you really have to work on your own. But even when you give it this right key terms, it's still going to pop out something that might not really work. It's still going to be a little bit generic. And what's happening right now is that AI has made it very easy to produce content at scale that technically checks all the boxes, but really just regurgitates the same point of view in a different way. So that AI written sameness, it's already getting filtered out, right? People are, publishing things hoping that it'll rank, but if it's not a unique take, it's not going to work. Google has already implemented some of their unique content aspects of like, how you're ranking compared, and keywords are just not the take anymore. It's rewarding usefulness and authority more than anything else. So that's why it's so important to have your own unique point of view and to really focus on thought leadership with a unique take. So this is where some other tools can help. I actually use Ahrefs and SEMrush to understand search intent and uncover content gaps that could be more popular in ranking when it comes to developing that unique point of view. Instead of thinking like what keywords are most popular, Instead, try to think, what are people actually trying to solve for, right? And where are the existing results that they're looking falling short? So SEMrush even has a content toolkit that offers AI-powered outline briefs, but it also can kind of like do a topic analysis to showcase where your competitors are currently ranking and how you can maybe have a different point of view. So, if you're using multiple different AI tools as partners, you are setting yourself up for success because you are being more strategic and AI is being leveraged as your analyst. So, the litmus test for me here that I use all the time, if your content could apply to any company in your industry, it applies to no one, not even you. So, think about that next time that you're trying to use AI to generate content and think about how you could up level your process to be a little bit more strategic. So let's go to the next slide. This is the part people don't talk about enough. AI isn't just about changing the way we write, it's about changing the way we operate. And so that's kind of what this whole presentation has been about. A lot of content teams, the pain point isn't the creativity. We're all really creative. We have great ideas. We just want to produce faster, but it's the chaos that comes around that process, right? It's endless back and forth. It's many rewrites. It's too many quick asks, especially if you're in a startup environment, that derail the actual content strategy. So this is where AI can really change everything. And some of it, it's not sexy. It's not, a really glamorous way to look at how to use AI, but it's helpful and it can help you scale and save you time. So if you have created a custom GPT, or if you've created something that can work with you, that understands your brand, you've fed it personas, you've given it context, it knows like your messaging strategy, all of the different content pillars that you're working with, that kind of thing, you can use it as a sparring partner to help you refine your briefs, help you refine your outlines, and pressure test your own ideas. You can even leverage it when you're in a bind to atomize your big rock content into smaller pieces instead of just copying and pasting different parts of your content into new formats. So that's something that's really important to think about here too, is that not all AI is just generative and, pressure testing like the different aspects of it. A lot of AI we don't even realize we're using because it's built into SaaS tools that we're already leveraging, right? So think of your project management systems like Notion. There are a lot of different things that, Notion does that leverages AI to create editorial calendars or alignment across teams or project manage things. There's a lot of things that you can do with Descript that's, just giving you transcripts so you don't have to re-listen to everything and transcribe. There's a lot of things that you can do with Canva to give you a quick graphic. And by the way, everything in my presentation I created with AI. So I didn't use it as something to I had to iterate over and over and over again. It did not get it right the first time. It didn't get it right the fifth time. But it did help me to sit down because I don't have a graphic designer on call to create some images that were relevant to this presentation, and it did it in such a short time frame that I was able to leverage it as a very, very quick fix. So when it comes to some of these decisions, I think that what matters most is that you use AI as a partner to help you move faster and never let it decide what matters most. You have to check it. You are the person who is in control of the editorial judgment, the prioritization of tasks, and saying no to content that does not serve your content strategy. Because it's never going to replace strategy and it's not going to give you these wonderful ideas that it's going to differentiate you in the market. It is there to be a sparring partner and somebody who can help you elevate your own thoughts. And let's go to the last slide. I really just want to leave you with this because it really is the through line to everything that we've talked about. AI doesn't make mediocre marketers better. It makes great marketers dangerous. If you have judgment, AI is going to help you get there faster. But if you don't have, the judgment, then AI is going to give you like it's not going to give you leverage, right? And so that's the division that we're seeing emerge, that humans are bringing insight, point of view, and accountability, where AI is bringing the speed, the scale, and the momentum. And those together are incredibly powerful. So the future of content isn't one or the other. It's not just human or machine. It's the humans who know how to lead the machines, but still trust their own intuition and their own instincts. So if there's one thing I hope that you take away from at least this portion of the presentation today, it's this, that AI scales execution and humans scale meaning.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke. I want to open it up to questions from the audience. In the meantime, sorry, my voice is going. When is it productive to use AI for solely content generation versus pressure testing ideas?
Yeah, so I touched on this a little bit. I think that if you have a custom GPT set up where it understands your brand a bit, you can work with it to train a bit more to give you better content output. You're still have to gonna execute as the editor in chief of that content output because a lot of times it'll still make mistakes. But I would honestly probably use that only as a content repurposing engine, because a lot of the times that unique point of view is not going to be there unless you do the upfront work yourself and then let it generate content based on the work that you've already provided.
Awesome. While we're waiting to see if any other questions come in, where did SEO flavored oatmeal come from? I mean, I just love, like, when I think about the content slop that's out there, and then I think about like SEO flavored oatmeal, I'm like, yeah, I want like
Yeah.
a fine cuisine and
Yeah,
you know.
no, it's just yeah, I mean it's something that, like, if you eat oatmeal for breakfast, you kind of forget what you had. And so it's something that's a good comparison, I think.
That's awesome. Um, Awesome. Well, we will go ahead and move towards wrapping this up. If folks have additional questions, reach out to Brooke. Let us know. We can obviously connect you or facilitate that. This wraps up the hot portions take of the webinar. Before we close things out, before you leave, we'd love to hear from you. Of the 5 hot takes we shared, which hot take resonated with you the most? So we'll give people just a minute to fill out this quiz or poll rather. Awesome. Great. We've got our results. This is wonderful. Thank you for participating. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their hot takes. And thank you for those who submitted their own hot takes in the comments. We will include a link in our follow-up email so that you can vote for your favorite from the crowd. And then we'll contact the winner who received the most votes later this week. Finally, if you're looking for more insights, we'll be hosting a webinar with Domestique, which is a firm on Wednesday, January 28th, talking about how B2B marketers can build a practical end-to-end attribution framework, which is one of my favorite topics because it's incredibly hard. Interesting mix of art and science. You can use the QR code on your screen to register, and we'll throw the registration link in the chat as well. So this concludes the webinar. We'll be sending an email tomorrow with the recording, so look out for that. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.